My older brother Don found an old scrap of masonite in the storage closet of our cabin, our family cabin in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. And with some light blue paint that he found in the same closet, he carefully painted the words. Now, we've been talking, my two brothers and I, about what we would write the whole time we were scrounging around for the materials to write it. During our regular ritual of fun and games in the forest, one of us had come across the body of a rabbit, fresh in death. I do not remember which one of us found the rabbit. I know it was not me because if it had been me, I know that I would never ever to this day been able to forget it. So it was either my brother Don or maybe Wayne. We dug down a few inches into the humus of the forest floor with an old rusty shovel, and someone picked up the lifeless body and carefully placed it into the depression we had made. Again, I know it was not me who moved the body because if it had been me, I know that to this day I would not have been able to forget it. But I do know that each of us took turns pushing the dirt and pine needles over the top of it. I will never ever forget the image of the fresh organic matter of the earth lying on top of the soft fur of the bunny rabbit. And then we finished the job with the masonite marker. Here lies Bunny, Don painted on the wood. Died June 17th, 1961. We were only kids, 7 and 9 years old, but somehow we knew what we needed to be about that afternoon so long ago. Death, we tell each other, is a part of life. Death, we tell each other, is the natural conclusion of a well-lived life. Nothing to fear, nothing to make a big deal about. But if that's true, then why do we struggle so much with it? Why does the death of a friend or a loved one sit on our hearts with so much pressure and so much pain? And why is it that after logging hundreds of hours in the woods around our Rocky Mountain cabin over the better part of my childhood, when I close my eyes, the event that is easiest to recall is finding and burying Bunny? The dear friends of Jesus, Mary, and Lazarus are caught in death's grip as they watch their brother Lazarus slip away in his illness. They had come to believe, as all of us have, that God puts into the hearts of those who love him a spark of hope, a vision that life is more than its ultimate demise. And this hope had taken root in the relationship that Mary and Martha had with Jesus. His teaching, his ability to heal, his powerful words and insights into the presence of God in the world had led them to believe that he could, if he wanted, push death back, keep it at bay. But then just when he is needed the most, just when the pleas of his friends are most desperate, Jesus turns a deaf ear. The gospel tells us that after he heard about Lazarus' illness, Jesus chose to stay put for 2 more days. With his refusal to go charging out of the door and run at full speed to rescue Lazarus from the grave, Jesus is exposing the little secret that we all know, but are afraid to talk about, for fear of being perceived as being weak in faith. And that secret is that God does not always act on our behalf. Sometimes God is just waiting. Sometimes God has other things on his hands that we know nothing about. It is the little secret that God, the God of all that is and all that ever will be, is not always going to come running to rescue us, not even from death. No matter how strongly we believe and no matter how loudly we call out. It's a secret too painful even to entertain as a possibility. And yet there it is in the black and white of the gospel message. After having heard that Jesus was ill, after having heard that Lazarus was ill, Jesus stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was staying. To the ears of the world, this is a cold, callous, calculating Jesus who, after hearing of the illness of his friend Lazarus, sits down for 2 days before heading off to Bethany. But to us who have died with Christ in baptism, to us who are daily guided and protected by the presence of the Holy Spirit of God, these are merely the calm, unencumbered ways of the one for whom death has little to say. We enter into relationships with the same calm demeanor, don't we? We make friends easily. We marry lovers. We cradle children as though we believe that friends cannot hurt us, that marriages will last forever, that our children will eagerly learn from our wisdom, but we also believe even more than that. We believe that when friends go their separate ways, the friendship will remain intact. We believe that spouses can find a kind of love that transcends life in this world and lasts forever. We believe that in the end we will set our children free and they will find their own wisdom without our help. We who are the friends of Jesus are either the silliest, most naive people who ever lived, or we know something about all of this that others do not know. We know that in spite of all the evidence to the contrary, it's all going to be okay. It's all right. When Martha hears that Jesus is on his way to the house, she drops everything she's doing and runs out to greet him, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, oh, oh," she sobs, "if only you had been here. Things would have worked out much better." "Don't worry about it, Martha," Jesus calmly replies. "Your brother will rise again." "Oh, I know all about that," Martha says. "You're talking about the resurrection of life at the end of all things. You're talking about then, but I'm talking about now. I needed you now, not then." Suddenly, Jesus stops in his tracks, Martha at his side. He takes a step forward and turns fully around so he's facing Martha, whose head is down, looking down in sorrow. "Martha, look at me. Look at me. I'm talking about now," Jesus says. "Not then. I am the resurrection. I am the life. Anyone who lives and believes in me will never die. It's going to be okay. Your brother will rise again." And with this simple promise, Martha, along with the rest of us, is invited into the other secret, hidden side of creation. This is the side where death takes its best swing and misses every time. This is the side where dried up dead bones rattle to life with the simple breath of God, as Ezekiel talks about in our first reading for today. This is the side where these tiny microscopic enemies that we're battling daily in our world today, those enemies that have invaded the very cells of our being, will ultimately be held in check. They will not win. This is the side where fallen bunnies romp and play under the watchful eyes of lions and tigers and bears, unafraid and unencumbered. This is the side where mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, sons and daughters, friends and neighbors never die. It's going to be okay. Thanks be to God. It's going to be okay.